All right, well, welcome. It's so nice to see you all. I'm going to kick things off tonight. My name is Paige Johnston, and I am the Associate Director of Public Programs here at the GSD. I want to start tonight by acknowledging that the Harvard Graduate School of Design is located on the traditional and ancestral land of the Massachusetts, the original inhabitants of what is now known as Boston and Cambridge. We pay respect to the people of the Massachusetts tribe, past, present, and future, and honor the land itself, which remains sacred to the Massachusetts people. The school also recognizes the work of the Harvard University Native American program, who cultivated the relationships that led to the creation of this acknowledgement. So a quick reminder for those of you watching online, we have closed captioning for tonight. Just click the closed captioning button at the bottom of the live stream window and you can activate that. And I also want to invite you all to join us for an upcoming public program. We're taking a little break next week. There are no events next week when many of our students will be on trips. And we will resume on Tuesday, October 10th, with a lecture by the GSD's own Anita Beresbaitia. Anita will be back here at the podium to talk about some work she's been doing and research about Charles Eliot's Blue Hills Reservation. So tune in for that. Again, that's on Tuesday, October 10th. And now I'll turn it over to Grace Law, who is chair of the architecture department, and she will introduce tonight's speaker. Great.
Thank you so much. So the architect Adolfo Natalini of the radical 1960s firm Superstudio referred to our speaker this evening, Michele De Lucchi, as the impresario of architecture and other pleasures. Now, Natalini was not merely citing the name of Michele's first practice, but was alluding to the polymathic and playful nature of his creative output. To borrow from the current exhibition in the GSD's Drucker Gallery right outside, one could even venture to call Michele a multi-hyphenate, a designer whose body of work in architecture, furniture, products, graphic design, performance, and writing matters as much as any singular creative identity. Over a 5-decade career, Michele has distinguished himself as a provocateur and a poet, a technophile and a sensualist. His expansive creative universe is reunified by several guiding themes: the pursuit of alternative modes of living, the challenging of the social and economic status quo, the fascination with high and low technologies alike, and the belief in design as a highly personal expression and experience. Trained in architecture, we love our architects, in Florence, Michele demonstrates a distinctly Italian attentiveness to craftsmanship, rejecting specialization. Following an early period of experimental and almost theatrical design work, suffused with the spirit of the 1970s radical pedagogy, Michele eventually immersed himself in product design, translating his avant-gardism from the conceptual and utopic to the concrete, tangible, even the industrial. It was at this counter-cultural juncture that a generation of architects reacted against the perceived austerity of 20th century modernism and fueled the rise of postmodernism, which, in its most exuberant phase, writes Jane Pavitt of the Royal College of Art, marked a provocative call for diversity and plurality in the arts and in society as a whole. Michele's tenures at the multimodal design firms Alchimia and Memphis, Milano in the 1970s and 80s captured the vitality of a generation in which popular culture and design intent became irrevocably fused. In this context, Michele produced the best-selling First Chair with its bench steel and very playful wooden spheres. Critics have noted that Michele's mold-breaking, colorful products, animated by materials, patterns, and sculptural qualities, act like electric shocks to the senses and are charged with an irreverence well associated with the experimental spirit of the day. Later, through Artimedy, Michele produced the iconic Tolomeo lamp, which is rumored to be the most extensively sold lamp in the world. Now, I own 6 of these, so I think there's something truth to that. He served as director of design at Olivetti from 1988 to 2002 and continued to produce numerous products, interiors, and projects in Japan, Germany, and Italy, opening his own studio in 1990, Produzioni Privata, I'm working on my Italian, which he states that he designs by working and thinking with hands. Early in my training, I approached design with little knowledge about lighting, and at the risk of dating myself, a Google search was not yet an option. I pored over hard copy catalogs and simply specified what I liked, quite at risk because I could not see the fixtures in person. There were hundreds of globe pendants. However, when I came upon the Castore, I realized this globe was decidedly different. Its sensual shape and tapered stem expressed the inherent potential of blown glass. Later, I specified the Logico pendant for another project and realized that both fixtures shared the same author, Michele. Michele's products are rooted in personal reflection, attuned to the relationships between design and ecology, and responsive to questions of consumerism and industrial culture. For instance, he has stated the desire to confer a cheerful, human, and relaxed image on technology to counter the often cold pragmatism of industry. This dual fascination with both nature and industry, with the organic and the plastic, is evidenced by the varied locales of his projects, from rural quarries to corporate offices. Splitting his time between his office in Milan and his lakeside studio Chioso, Michele brings his creative visions to life through digital and analog means, availing himself of cutting-edge technologies as well as timeless architectural methods of handicraft, wood models, and drafting. At Chioso especially, Michele's formulations on the relationship between design and the environment come into focus. Alluding to the French author Marguerite Yourcenar, he muses that architecture and design are to collaborate with the planet because humanity is inextricably tied to the earth and its conservation. In this light, we might better appreciate some of Michele's recent undertakings, including the Earth Stations, from his design group AMDL CIRCLE. Recalling these recurring concerns, Michele's Earth Stations interrogate our consumer culture and imagine alternative modes of living. Reminiscent of his ideational works of the 1970s, these Earth Stations foster unexpected juxtapositions of experience and sensation. As ever, Michele's latest work embraces the technology of the day, harnessing contemporary innovations while subverting the formulaic living patterns of our data-driven world. Despite shifting aesthetic outputs and oscillations between the speculative and the tangible, Michele's work retains a committed intellectual and social ethos, one that is simultaneously focused on the future, immersed in the present, and mindful of the past. Beyond the visual appeal of his designs, the aesthetic, ecological, and consumerist critiques embedded in his projects remain as relevant as ever. The interdisciplinarity and verve with which such visions play out remind us of the rich potential in diversifying our experiences. Michele speaks through a medium of industrial design with a far-reaching yet personal hand, in a way that I had recognized those years ago with his lamps and the subsequent purchases of the Tolomeo lamps. As architects, we must bring the audience to our designs. Michele, by contrast, brings his designs to the audience. So tonight we are fortunate to bring Michele's designs to this audience. Please join me in welcoming Michele De Lucchi. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. It was a wonderful presentation. I'm very, very, very moved from this. Yes. Tonight, I'm talking you about my most visionary project, my most visionary experience. Visionary, but very, very tangible, and I expect hopefully inspiring for you. Because in this time, we have to be very careful about what we do and about how we foresee our future. The future is the topic. The future is what we have to center as architect, because as architect we have this responsibility to foresee the oncoming world. As architects, we are designing, and designing means to throw in front of us all our sensibility, of our capability to understand, all our strength to look for a better future, not to be responsible for a world in which we could not live anymore. But yes, after this presentation of Lilian, I want just to pass by very quickly some of my projects, just to understand what does it mean for me to design, and to design as an Italian architect, because yes, it's true, I'm not specialized. I'm not against specialization, but I believe that architecture is a very holistic discipline, and we have to be careful about it. You know, there's a beautiful sentence by Vitruvio. Vitruvio was the first art and architectural historian, and he said, if you want to build up a roof, you have to know about the stars that stay on the top of the roof. And this is, I think, is a beautiful image to think that you have to design a roof, but you have to be very aware where the roof stays and what is the environment around the roof. In Italy, we have a lot of heritages, a lot of historical buildings, and it's very, very, very important to be able to deal with all the historical buildings and environments. And we design a lot of renovations, and this, for example, was a monastery, and this monastery became in Venice, and now this monastery is one of the most important European libraries for art. A totally different project, a bridge that is not a bridge. This bridge is the symbol of Georgia in Caucasus. Georgia is a very small country, south of Russia, south of the Caucasus, and is a very fragile country. I've been very lucky to get in touch with this country. I don't know why it happened, but it happened. And once the president of Georgia invited me to design a monument to peace. A monument to peace. I thought, how can I design a monument to peace? And I thought that he was expecting, like me, to design a big statue, a lady, I don't know, doing like that. But and instead I proposed to the president to design a bridge. The bridge is the symbol of peace. We cannot create any balanced situation if we don't bridge one side of the river with the other, one cultural position to the other, if we are not able to bridge ourselves with the others. And this bridge is just a pedestrian bridge. It's totally unuseful, I tell you, because it's connecting two sides of the city that they don't need to be connected. But it's very, very important. And it became the symbol of Georgia. It became the most successful monument in Georgia. The tourists that they go to Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia, they go to visit this, and they pass by the bridge because they feel that this building, this construction, is a very important and meaningful one. This is an office building for a bank, and today has been bought by IBM, and is an open office for meeting clients. Other buildings in Milan, some of this has been just pavilions for the Expo 2015 in Milan, the International Universal Exhibitions, and I've been involved to design some of the central pavilions to explain the topic to feed the planet, energy for the future. This is another one. And this is a museum. It's one of my last projects that I did with the Circle. The name of my office is the Circle. And it is a museum about medicine for the pharmaceutical company Novartis. It's just a museum, but as you see, has a very special scheme. The scheme of this building is a photovoltaic scheme that is capturing the energy of the sun during the day, and it is transmitting by night, just enlarging what the scientists they see in the lenses of the how you say the microscope. Thank you, of the microscope. And what they see with all the cells, and I've been very fascinated by cells. I never forget that me, as well as all of you, we are built by 15,000 trillions of cells. You can imagine. We are 15,000 trillions of cells that are moving, are talking, are looking, seeing, feeling. Is wonderful. Well, in this building you see the cells enlarged just on the wall of the building. This is my Tolomeo lamp. Thank you, Lilian, for the 6 lamps you have. I consider you a supporter. But this is another product, luckily very successful, that for an Italian company called Alessi. Alessi, they do householders and objects for the house and for the kitchen. Well, now the earth stations. The earth stations is a very important topic for me. It happened a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, I think in 2018, that I was really oppressed by this feeling that everything is changing, and as architect, I'm not able to follow the continuous changement. Somebody called this changement the exponential changement. And it is. Everything is changing. For sure, you are aware about that. Everything is changing. But what is most important to know is everything that is changing today is changing again and again, and more rapidly and rapidly. So we are living in a phase of the human civilization in which we have to be very much adapted to the changement. And together with the Circle, yes, in 2016 I changed the name of my studio from the studio of Michele De Lucchi in the Circle, for a very simple reason, that I believe that architecture should be like a way to combine together many competences, many disciplines, many different approaches to life. Architecture is not only a technical discipline. It's not only to be able to build buildings, skyscrapers, auditorium, and so on. It's very much matter of understanding who we are, what we want, and where we want to go. And And in the circle, I choose all the best of my collaborators, the best of my colleagues. We did this office, a small office of 40, 50 people. And I also organized a kind of club of people coming from other disciplines. That means neurologist, psychoanalyst, scientist, anthropologist, philosopher, and so on and so on. Because to face the changement, we have to be very, very much compact to see the changement under many different points of view. It's not just to change the car and to buy an EV car, to move from fossil to electrical components and energies. We have to be, it's much more. And it concerns our way of trusting in the future. This is very important. We spoke in the class today morning. It's very important. To be architect, you have to be very optimistic. You have to believe in the society, in humanity. We have to believe in our power. Our power is not the power of somebody, but is of some individual. Is the power of everybody together. And so I thought, yes, if we are changing, we are in the middle of the changement. We need stations. We need to stop somewhere to understand where we are coming from and where we want to go. That's the meaning of Earth Station. Earth Stations is not to build building for eternity. It's not just to build something that should last forever, but it's just to build something that makes the changement easier, more enthusiastic, more fulfilling everybody's expectations. And so I installed this topic in the mind of my colleagues, in the mind of my friends, archaeologists, anthropologists, psychoanalysts, and so on and so on. And we develop ideas of possible buildings for the future. Buildings for the future that we called new sharing architecture. Architecture should be something that we have to share, and should be something that where everybody find its own personal, meaningful reason to be there. I studied in Florence, and it was a beautiful time. I spent beautiful time there. I was very young, and Florence was very exciting at the time because it was the city of avant-garde in Italy. Was really the best possible university at the time in Italy. But there, 50 years ago, they taught me to build walls for dividing, and this is just it's not just a physical problem. It's a mental problem. It's a psychological problem. As architects, we should build walls for bringing together more than not for separating. Walls are, yes, obviously we need the walls. Obviously we have to separate outside from inside. Obviously we need to have fresh air in summertime when it's hot, and warm air in a warm environment in the winter when it's cold. Obviously, but the meaning of walls is not just to separate interiors by exteriors, but is to make our life in the planet suitable for when you stay outside and when you stay inside. And That, for example, that's a good reason to study better the relation between inside and inside, and not to think that one door is enough to separate interior by exteriors. So with this idea that we want to build walls for bringing people together, we created a number, I think 6 buildings called Earth Stations Interactors that are building to make people interacting together, building just to create and to enhance humanness and relations. Architecture that's very important. Architectures, when we design buildings, we do not design only the buildings. We design the behavior of people inside the buildings. When we design objects, we do not design only the products. We design also the behavior of people around these products. And that is a big responsibility that we have as architects. That is not only to build up something, not to put bricks on the top of other bricks, but we design the life and the excitement and the pleasure for other people. So this is called the moat station. It's just a building for forecasting. It is a building that you see is matching with the environment. I believe very much that we should keep in strong relations the environment with the buildings that we do. And you see, is just an idea of a possible space to make people living together. The construction is done by this big baskets that support the ceiling, and this is the moat station. Another building that is called the mountain station is a congress hall. It's a congress hall obviously we say we take a decision in the summit. This is a building on the top of the mountains to take decision in the summit. And inside there are all the space organized to have meetings, to have conferences, and everything happening in the Congress building. Another project is this floating souk station. This is a kind of a fair building. Is a building to organize fair in which to trade ideas, As human beings, we have this ability to create ideas and to make this idea realizable. And we change continuously because we change in relation with I call the zeitgeist, the spirit of the time in which we are, and we are continuously following this changement. And the ideas are very important. I'm not worried about if somebody copy my ideas. That means that I was the first one to have the idea, and I'm sure that I can be much more high than not people that copy myself. This is a library. The library is the symbol of knowledge, is the metaphor of knowledge. And you know what the Greek philosopher used to say, that you learn walking, and walking is a way of learning. The so-called peripatetic philosopher, they used to teach just walking in the street, and walking is a beautiful metaphor because walking is the idea that you proceed. And you know, when you walk, to walk, you have to unbalance yourself and to place the feet in a way not to fall down. And when you walk, you are continuously unbalancing. So this is a beautiful metaphor, and also for knowledge, also for designing, also for architects. It's always matter to get a little bit unbalanced and to repair, to be unbalanced and to repair. Yeah, this building is like a crown, very full of fantasy, but it's a crown in which you walk all around and you never stop walking around this bridge that is the bridge of knowledge. So, you say, for each building I designed the interior, because it's a relation between the interior and the exteriors has to be very strong, has to be. The main reason to design buildings is not to place objects in the landscape. We don't have space any longer to put meaningful objects. We need to find out a reason to build, and we have to find very, very significant reason that help humanity to survive and not to disappear. Well, this is a kind of office. I imagine this office is like a ring in the roundabout of some big city entering somewhere, I don't know where. And inside there are all the people working either physically with hands, either philosophically or mentally, as you see, you step from one office to another, from one atelier to another, from tradition to modernity, from modernity to tradition. Or these buildings, it looks like a supermarket. It looks like a shopping center, but in reality it's a museum. It's a museum because the most important product that we can provide in the future is creativity. Creativity is the center of our research, and we will never be machines. So I'm not frightened at all about artificial intelligence, AI. I believe that AI is a wonderful way to push, again, humans to be more alert, more creative, more responsible. Well, after this experience, I understood that I was not touching a very important topic. That is the topic of craftsmanship. Is the topic of human doing something by hands. And I don't know if you have this experience, but when you do something together with other people, in the kitchen, for example, just preparing dinner with friends, you understand that when you do something together, something very, very simple, something very practical, you create a wonderful relation. And I thought, why we do not design buildings designed with a modern mentality, but to celebrate the capability of human beings to do objects by hands. So I just thought we can go in the different part of the world, in the different climate, and to build up like a monument to the craftsmanship of the single climate. For example, this is the bamboo station. The bamboo station is a cathedral, like a cathedral, to be done in the tropical countries, where there are a lot of bamboos, and bamboos is just a common tree that is a wonderful wood for construction, and to build up the most unbelievable construction, where to exhibit all the objects created by local peoples, done by hands. like I don't know, tapestry, basket, and so on and so on. Or to go in the polar system, in the very polar climate, and to create a bark station where people inside can visit and can get it directly in touch with the craftsmanship done by Inuit, with the skin of the animals, or with the cork of the few trees that are there. Or another building to be built in the continental climate, to be built with just logs, with trunks, and inside to have this wonderful structure like bath, done with other materials, vegetable materials, and to get in touch with the craftsmanship, with the object, with the products that are handmade in this area. And this building are totally done by hands, are totally done just with the experience of people, with the experience of the construction of the site. This is in the desert. In the desert, they used to build with the clay, and this is the clay station. And it's just a building, as you see. It's a market. Can be a market, but can be also just a monument, a building to celebrate the capability of people in the desert to make rugs, to make masks, and food. Food is the most important product of handmade product. We love a lot. For sure, you too. When you can buy some tomatoes in the street, or you can buy some vegetables, because you feel that has been done by hands, has been done by people, taking care, and just putting the seed and waiting to grow up zucchinis or tomatoes or what else. So I believe that craftsmanship is an important tool for innovation, because it's not only just a traditional way of doing. It's the best possible way to experience something directly with your hands. The third chapter of Earth Stations is dedicated to education. Together with my colleagues, we understood that if we are not able to invest in education, the new mentality will not grow, and we need really to change our habits. We have a lot of habits that are no longer possible. We have a lot of conventions. Time by time, I think to my life, and to the idea that my parents, they used to have about me, and about my way of living, and I think that a lot of stuff has to change. A lot. For example, the most simple one is food. Food. We the most dangerous side of industrial production is coming just for the production of food, and we are destroying forests, and we are polluting huge, enormous quantity of land, just to. This movie is called Cowspiracy. You know Cowspiracy? It's a beautiful movie, and it's scary, or horrible scary. But I don't want to say, well, we don't have to eat meat. I want to say we can eat much less meat than once. My mom, they used to give me meat for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. It's impossible. It's really impossible. It's enough to have meat one day yes and one day no. So education is very important. And I think that we have a lot to learn and a lot to unlearn. It's not about matter to be professor or students, but it's matter to be aware about in which situation we are. I love to teach, and I love to be professor, not because I love to tell something to others, but because when I teach, I know that I'm learning a lot. I want to enter in the mentality of the students, because the students, they have much more awareness than not I have about the future. Education is, I was very much helped by a friend of me that is an anthropologist. That education should be a way to understand our civilization. And our civilization has been born just in touch with nature. At the beginning of the human civilization, the so-called nomad hunters, they decided to stop, and instead of going around the board looking for food, they decided to stop in one place and to create the condition in which they could follow the seasonal growing of plants and animals. And so I think that at the beginning of the school we should create schools in which children, they get in touch with nature. And this has been called the farm station, because especially for the youngest, it's very important to create an environment in which people can just feel you see there are cows around, the natural environment, trees, sand, sheep, and this is just a station not only for children, for grandparents, for elder people, where to meet generations. One of the most important topics that we faced designing the educational stations has been just how to combine together the different generations. Because this is important, is an important feature that we have to bring generations together and to make a generation dealing each other. The second education stations is the so-called the village station, because also the civilization of humans started from farms. We started to organize each other in small villages, and in the villages, the first cooperation between people started to be alive and started to create singular communities. You see, in this project, we just mixed together the single buildings to create a kind of special energetic building in the center. Inside this building, the students and the different generations, they enter in touch with the communication, the capabilities of human beings to communicate and to cooperate each other. This is fundamental. And even if we have different calligraphies, different idioms, different languages, we are doing as much as possible to understand each other. And if we do not understand each other, no way, we will never save our civilization. And another station after the farm, to the village, to the town station. The town station is something that I understood with my colleagues, that food is very essential, not only as in the meaning that I told you before, but because food is a wonderful way to match cultures. is a beautiful way to understand other people's taste and to experience the taste, the culture, the mentality. And here in these buildings, we mix different way of cooking. You see this Japanese way of cooking and European way of cooking, and many other different system, because just the communicating different culture through food is the best and the winning way of communicating. Or the road station, because after the cities, the civilization tried to bring together all the different cities and to connect. The connections are very important. In this building, we installed this kind of mountains, small mountains, with a cave inside. This is a metaphor, because it's very important that this is Antoine Saint-Exupéry, the author of the Small Prince. It's a beautiful book for children and adults. He said, if you wanted to climb a mountain, you have always to look to the peak of the mountain, because if you look to the peak of the mountain, you know where to go, you know where to put your hands and you put your feet. And so these mountains are just to teach that we have to look to the peak of the mountains. But there is a cave inside. It's a cave because I used to meditate every day, and I think it's a very, very, very useful practice, and it's very helpful. And in these caves, we can teach people to meditate, to take the time to look inside your mind, because our mind is crazy, and it's very difficult to control your mind, and we need to dedicate some time to control our mind. And the last education station is a tower. It's a tower like the tower in the Middle Age, where people used to look outside what's happening. And you see, this tower is just in the middle between the fog and the sun. It is a metaphor about the knowledge, and the knowledge that you have to foresee what is unknown to understand where to go. This is the interior. Last project of the Earth stations is the so-called happy stations. We used to design many residences, many condominiums, many apartment blocks. But we understood that we are not able to design the happiness of the city, of the people living in this building. And we thought, what can we do as architects to design a building where people feel happy inside? And it's a very simple solution. We can build buildings for happy people only if we are able to touch and to enhance the passions, the desires, the ambitions of people. If we can create communities of people having the same hobby, the same personal desires, we can create wonderful, happy communities. So this, for example, is a community in which there are families with children, and to bring together people that love children and love making children playing. Or this is a community we call green community, where people love to grow vegetables and to eat vegetables together. Or a community in which people love to work together, and we created just in the top of the building beautiful offices to work together. Or of this called gold community, in which in the bone, in the vertical connections of the building, we create libraries and spaces for making people studying and creating together. But what is important is that the entrance of the apartments are not from outside. The entrance of the apartment are coming from these areas, so are coming from these common spaces, and in this way we are able to create communities because the feeling of a space that is shared by everybody is just the best way to communicate human relations. Well, I told you this was the last chapter of the stations. Is not wrong. It's the last before the last one, and I just wanted to show this image because I am building a house for myself. It's this one. It's a house that is done totally in wood, without any chemical, without any finishing, without without concrete, without plaster, just wood and stones. And this house is an house that will be finished just in a few months. And I invite you to say, if you want to come to visit Lago Maggiore, you will see an house that is done only with natural materials. You can find all this and much more than that in this book. Is Italian, but there is also the English version. We are still going on with air stations, and I want to give you a very short last communication that I did for tonight. I thought I'm going to Harvard to have a public lecture in Harvard. I want to bring a surprise. I want to bring something that is making understanding better what we have to do as architects, a message to all the architects of the world. And I created an equation that is just an equation. An equation is a normal way for scientists to find out what is variable, what is unknown. A simple equation. And this is the equation. A equal EIQ. A stands for architecture. E stands for environmental. I for installations, multiplied by a quotient. A equal EIQ. This is an equation in which everything that I told you is inside. A as architecture. We are architects, and we need to find out which is our role in the society, which is what we have to do, what we have to imagine for our client, for ourselves first and not else, and for the world in which we are living, for the new generation oncoming. A is architecture. But we have to know that we are living in a time of changement. So we cannot build for Parthenon. We cannot build for eternity. We have to build for the time in which we are living. And to build for the time in which we are living means that we have to think more to installations than not to eternal buildings. And we have to consider the environment. The environment is nature. The environment is a society. The environment is the economical conditions. We have to deal with the context. So architecture is environmental installations, is to take care of the context, to take care of the environment, and to install there something that is useful, meaningful, and reliable. But everything has to multiply it for the factor of changement. Is the Q. And the factor of changement, do you know what is the main factor of changement? We are human beings. the human being, the changements that we are facing are not matter of some entities that we don't know. It's a very simple entity that we are. We are responsible for the changement, and we need the changement now, because we need the changement if we do not want the extinction of our civilization. So this is the question, and is a very important step. I did for tonight, but I understood that it's a very important step in my life. I was always looking for the role of the architect since the time of radical architecture. In the 70s, I was just creating funny, crazy buildings. This is part of my diploma at university, because I understood that the architect has also the role of an instigator, somebody that has to shake the ideas, but to shake in a gentle way, to shake in a responsible way. In the Memphis time, we created the most extravagant possible imaginations, and it was important too in the 80s. In the 90s, I created the Produzione Privata. In the 2000, I went to my chiosco, to my atelier, working with the wood and creating the model, the conceptual model for my architecture. And just in the middle of last decade, I created the circle. I created the circle that I explained you with the best people I had around me. Now we are a group of 40, 50 people, and we are very successful. We design buildings all over the world. In the 20s, I created I started in the 10s, but I'm going on with the stations. And now is the time of the equation. The equation that everything has to be balanced. And everything has to be balanced with nature, with architecture, and with human being. With this changement, the factor changement that we need. Look just for samples. The bridge in Tbilisi is A equal EIQ, where the Q is the need of symbols. We need symbols. Or the pavilion in the Milan Expo, the Q is the nature, because the old Expo was based on the need of sustainability and a natural way of looking to the future, or temporary buildings, or buildings for events, or building for technology, or building for hospitality. There is always a reason to do something, but the reason has to be very clear. The reason has to be fulfilled in all the need and in all the possible most advanced opinions and ideas. There are a lot of this. Even the stations are part of this process. And the last air stations that I designed are called the satellite stations. I designed last year, and it's based on the idea of fertility, because sustainability is important. But if we kill the fertility of the planet, we kill everything. We kill ourselves. Fertility is probably more important than the sustainability itself. I invite you just at the end of this year, at the beginning of next one, to see this movie that Victor Kosakowski, there is a movie director that escaped from Russia 10 years ago. That is doing, and we did it together. I am the main protagonist of this movie. This movie is called Architecton. It will be visible since January. Is distributed by A24. Is a very well-known movie distributors in the States, and it's just about everything that I told you now. Everything that I told from the history of architecture. Architecton means architect in the ancient Greek. Is the name of the architect for Greeks. And it's just the excursions from buildings that have been built just to be eternal, as this one that you see, from the buildings that we have to create now, that they have to be perfectly fitting to their needs. Well, since a few years, I enjoy a lot writing. And this is my atelier, is the chioso that Lilian mentioned before. I write, and I publish my text in Substack if you want to follow me. Now I leave you with the movie about the satellite stations, about fertility.
Nella foresta il pavimento non è mai duro, le scarpe affondano in un morbido strato vegetale, un fertile miscuglio di sostanze organiche che fa crescere rigogliosa la foresta. Gli alberi alimentano l'humus e l'humus alimenta gli alberi. Perché non pensare che anche l'architettura possa essere fertile? Che gli edifici dell'uomo alimentino il terreno e il terreno alimenti gli edifici? Le satellite stations sono piccole costruzioni, pensatoi, serre, palchi e padiglioni, costruite in legno che con il tempo tornano humus.
Thank you.
That was incredibly interesting. It almost seemed like all the Earth stations are a kind of almost a meditation. They seem very polished, very finished, but in fact they're in a series of sketches or design ideas, each one. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about I have some both practical questions and formal questions. Who's commissioning these? This is super, because it seems like these are ideograms for you. They're ideas about ways of living, about thoughts, but and they're programmatically flexible. All of these. They also seem to be cited always in a field or not actually in an urban scenario, but mostly in park settings or open fields or on the edges. So many questions. Tell us a little bit more about the origin of this.
Yeah. The air stations, they are not supposed to be built as you have seen in the pictures. They are just instigations, they are inspirations. We use a lot of these projects to inspire the professional projects that we have in the office. And I know also other architectural practice, they use to get inspired by their stations for the buildings that they pick up something here and there, but this is what I wanted. This is the meaning of their station, to be inspirational ideas and inspirational projects for the oncoming projects. And we have to invest as architects about our profession. Is what we do constantly. We cultivate ourselves as persons, and we have to cultivate ourselves as architects. No way that the challenges that we are facing are very, very important, very difficult. And I mean, we cannot solve all these problems just because we fulfill the need of our clients. We are clients of ourselves.
I think that's a very interesting idea because in some ways you're self-generating these works as ideation, and that would seed other types of projects, which I find really very interesting. As architects, we are often charged with the mandate for endurance, for architectural endurance. A building roof must. The best ones are 75 years plus, et cetera. We're built for the kind of sensibility of permanence. So what's very fascinating to me about your equation is to suggest that actually architecture, if you think about it in installation time, or in most artistic exhibitions or installations, are very short in duration. Of course, they come up, they come down. So I think that you're sending a very powerful message about time, about the expectation for time.
Thank you. Thank you. This is very important. And I didn't talk about that because, but in the equation is the quotient of time is very important. And the time, everything is changing not because we are using too much and because it's no more usable for physical reason, but because we are moving to another step, to another mental condition, to our other needs, other expectations, our new dreams. We have a lot of dreams for the future, and why we should not try to make these dreams real?
Yeah, it's a kind of aspirational thinking. Could you tell us, how did you make again, some of the products that you've designed are so iconic. Many of us know these incredible pieces that you've produced. How did you make this leap between, realizing that, understanding or accepting that architects imagine the discipline as working at all scales, and we talked a little bit about this at lunchtime, but I'm curious for you because you spent so many years at the smaller scale, at the scale of objects and things that we touch that are extremely tactile and portable, and So tell us a little bit about that, because it seems like there is actually, like when you look at the trajectory of your career, there's a rift, a very specific moment.
The easiest way to explain this concept is just to go back to the metaphor of walking. When you walk, you have to look where you put your feet, you have to look where you are, and you have to look to the peak of the mountains to understand in which direction you are. Or you have to look to the polar star to know that you are going north. So, and you are continuously focusing the star, the peak, the path in which you are, and you are continuously changing your environment and continuously matching all the informations together to enjoy and to feel happy to walk and to proceed. Because walking is a beautiful metaphor, because you never stop. You go on, you go and go and go on, and that's in some way how I do my profession. I keep, sometimes it's very hard to keep relations with companies, because the companies, they need the products very quickly. You have to be very much ready to respond to the request, and either for product design, either for furniture design, either for lighting, and we have to be very, very much on the topic in a short time and with the best possible answer. And the only way to do it is to invest in advance in yourself. To invest not in waiting for somebody that is knocking to your door and to say, I want this. Because this is not the way of doing our profession. You know very well. You have to bring yourself in the position of getting generated the need that you understood in advance. And
I think that many times we guess the grass is greener.
Right. When we design the air stations, you probably have seen in some of the education stations, I did some furniture design. Some of these are products today, because I designed the furniture for the air stations, but they became products for companies of today.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And some of the details of the shelters that we did in the fantasies of the air stations, they became real in other projects, because we had already the solution, and we were just waiting for somebody asking for that.
It's opportunism at its best. I'm going to open up to the floor. Can questions? Ruben Zeiset.
Thank you for your lecture. I'm wondering, so obviously a lot of the Earth stations are sort of these fantastic worlds, but you just mentioned that like real products have come out of them. And I'm wondering, as far as like a disciplinary tool, how useful is fantasy to your work? And giving a meaning to that fantastic image that you're producing, rather than allowing like fantasy on its own to generate ideas which then get applied to situations as you find them. Because I'm wondering if some of these fantasies that you're sort of producing actually meet the situation that you're saying they are meant for. Yeah. But I think it could be a useful way to just make the fantasy and then find an application, if you have thoughts on that process.
Yes, I don't know if I answered directly to your question, but I can tell you. The main difference between to be architect, to be designer, or to be artist is where you look for the judgment of what you do. I mean, when you are an architect, you you look for the satisfaction of the people that are living in the buildings that you design. When you are an artist, you don't need the other approval. It's enough your approval. And when you are an artist and you build up a sculpture, you are the judge of yourself. And you know if you can be happy or not about what you did. When you are a designer, it's much more tricky because the judge in the design is the market. And the market is very, very subtle and difficult. The market, I can tell you, the market can approve very banal projects and can just reject wonderful projects. Because not always the best project is the best product. There is a big difference between projects and products. And this has make me thinking a lot even today, because the only way that I can find to say that a product is successful is not only when it's successful in the market and is sold a lot, but because it's an icon, is a step in the evolution of these objects, of these tools, of these machines.
I think that's actually an incredibly important lesson, the difference between what drives the market, and it's a completely profound idea that actually, much of what we produce is subject to that force, and that's not always actually the best design, as you know. Other questions?
So this is related to the market. I thank you for coming up. I was so blown away, especially by the happiness stations, and I'm wondering, how do you think we make this transition at the societal scale from where we're at today with skyscrapers and everyone in their own little boxes to this world where we have small communities building up big cities?
Yes, very good. You are just posing the question of how large is the spectrum of possibilities in architectures and in interiors and in human environments. The spectrum is huge. In the future, cities will be more and more important because right now I think 60% of the world population is installed in the cities, and in 2050 there's some prediction of 90% of the world population in the cities, and the cities are wonderful. The cities are the places in which humans they collaborate at the best. I would say 98% of the patents in the world have been created in the cities. Only 2% are coming from individuality somewhere, I don't know where. So that means that even under a creative point of view, the relation between people is fundamental. Even by an invention point. This is a beautiful book by a journalist, a New York journalist called Johnston. He wrote a book called Where the Best Ideas Come From. Please give a look to this book because it's very interesting. And he's explaining that the best ideas, they come from people, from a group of people in which they he calls impollination. Is that possible? Impollination between people. We are polluting each other. I bring seeds in your mind, and you bring seeds on mine, even with your questions. So I think that in the future we have to
understands that we will have a huge spectrum of possibilities, from people living individually, from people living in small groups, from people living in big groups, from small countries from small cities, small towns and villages, to big cities and metropoles. We have to face all the possibilities. I believe in small buildings and in bigger buildings, but both of them are important, and both of them they require only one condition: to be useful. We cannot build an useful building and to use precious space in the planet because of just caprice. Caprice is that possible?
I think we have time for one last question. Behind you? Oh, I guess you beat him to it. Okay.
I love those concepts, but taking it back, I think the main idea is to create spaces for creativity, from what I understand. But the thing is, and I read this somewhere, where in designing plazas, for example, what you cannot just leave a void space and say people are gonna walk there and gonna use it, because sometimes void creates void. So my question would be, and there's this saying, like everybody knows it, you cannot force an artist, you cannot force creativity on an artist. So isn't that going to be a challenge when creating those spaces?
Yes. You know, functionality today is something obvious. You cannot design a chair that is uncomfortable. You cannot design a table that is not stable. You cannot design a room that is not livable. This is what we can add to this functionality. And this is the topic. What to create more significant than not the functionality. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for all the architects. How we excite the mentality of people, how we excite our brains, but not only the brain, I always go back to genetics because I'm very passionate about epigenetics. That is the science that study how I told you how the environment influences the cells. You know that it's only 20 years that scientists have discovered that cells, they have a membrane. They have a membrane. Nobody knew, and nobody took attention to the membrane of cells till somebody understood that the membrane, that is even called the main brain of the cells, is the most important part of the cells, because this membrane is filling the space. A stupid cells is a so funny entity. Is able to fill the space. And the scientists, they put two identical cells, one in a lightful environment and happy environment, and another one in a dark and sad environment, and the two cells, they behave differently and they grow differently. And somebody is a scientist called Pollock. Pollock is like the painter. He's studying. He studied. That's fantastic. And he was able to show that the snowflake, the crystal of water, they become different in relation to the mood of the people that is looking to the snowflake. The water is sensible. The water is sensible. The water fills the environment.
You can believe that? I don't believe. But
Okay.
I don't believe, but I'm very, very much attracted by this stuff because, I mean, if we can discover that really, I don't believe, but there are pictures about that. You can look to Pollock, and is a Pollock together with a Japanese guy called Emoto. Give a look. If you Google Emoto-san, because he did these pictures, and you clearly understand that there's something there. It's not just a fantasy. It's something that we have to discover. We have so much to learn from nature and so much to understand about how the cells combine each other. What gives the cells the information to be a cells of the eye and not a cell of the stomach? What gives these informations? We are going to discover. That's the reason why we are living in such a wonderful time in which everything is changing, and it will be enough just a small discovery like this one to change completely our idea of the world, our idea about what we are, where we came from, if God exists or not. That's.
Okay, I'm going to close it out here. We're never going to look at our water in a different way and experience our happiness here. Thank you so much, Michele. Appreciate it. Thank you.